The prestige of the American presidency is often symbolized by the silhouette of the blue and white Boeing VC-25A. Yet on the evening of January 20th, 2026, that symbol faced a public and mechanical setback that captured international headlines. President Donald Trump was scheduled to attend the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, a high-stakes gathering of global leaders and financial titans. Departing from Joint Base Andrews under the cover of night, the mission was intended to be a routine transatlantic crossing. However, barely an hour into the flight crew detected a persistent electrical anomaly within the primary systems of the aircraft. Reports from the press pool on board indicated that flickering lights in the cabin and fluctuations in power served as the first physical indicators that something was amiss. While the pilots and engineers initially assessed the risk, the decision was made by the United States Air Force and the Secret Service to prioritize the safety of the commander-in-chief over the tight diplomatic schedule. The aircraft performed a sharp U-turn over the Atlantic Ocean and headed back toward Maryland. By 11:07 p.m., the massive 747 touched down safely at Joint Base Andrews, where a swarm of maintenance crews and security personnel awaited its arrival. This was not merely a logistical hiccup. It was a high-profile demonstration of the vulnerabilities inherent in a fleet that has served since the administration of George H.W. Bush. The president, alongside key figures such as Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, was forced to undergo a rapid transfer of equipment and personnel. The backup aircraft, a smaller Boeing C-32, was prepared for immediate departure to ensure the president could still fulfill his obligations in Zurich. Although the president arrived in Switzerland approximately 3 hours behind his original schedule, the delay sparked an immediate global conversation regarding the reliability of the United States' aging airborne command centers. The incident serves as a stark reminder that even the most protected and meticulously maintained aircraft in the world are not immune to the relentless march of time and the inevitable degradation of mechanical systems that have been in constant operation for decades. The aircraft involved in the Davos incident is one of two highly modified Boeing 747-200B series planes that have served as Air Force One for nearly 40 years. Known by the tail numbers 28,000 and 29,000, these planes are far more than mere transport vessels. They're flying fortresses equipped with hardened electronics, mid-air refueling capabilities, and advanced communication suites designed to function during a nuclear conflict. However, beneath the polished exterior lies an airframe technology that dates back to the late 1980s. International aviation experts have long warned that the difficulty of maintaining these specific aircraft is increasing exponentially each year. Because the 747-200 is no longer in commercial production, the Air Force must often custom manufacture replacement parts or source them from salvaged aircraft, a process that is both prohibitively expensive and time-consuming. The electrical failure experienced during the January 2026 flight is symptomatic of aging aircraft syndrome, where wiring harnesses and internal components become brittle and prone to intermittent faults that are difficult to diagnose. Every hour these planes spend in the air requires hundreds of man-hours of maintenance on the ground, a ratio that continues to tilt unfavorably as the fleet reaches the end of its projected service life. The Pentagon has been forced to dedicate increasing portions of its budget just to keep these two planes flight-worthy, yet the Davos incident proves that even the most rigorous maintenance schedules cannot guarantee absolute reliability. The complexity of the VC-25A is its own enemy. The very systems that make it a secure command post, such as the miles of specialized shielding and redundant power grids, are the same systems that are now failing due to thermal stress and material fatigue. This engineering crisis has placed the White House in a precarious position, relying on a primary transport that is increasingly viewed as a liability rather than an asset. The world watched as the most powerful leader on Earth had to switch to a backup plane, a Boeing 757 variant often used by the vice president, because the flagship of the fleet could no longer be trusted to cross the ocean safely. The obvious solution to the aging fleet was supposed to be the VC-25B program, the next generation of Air Force One based on the modern Boeing 747-8 airframe. However, this program has become a case study in defense procurement challenges and manufacturing delays. Boeing, already facing intense scrutiny over its commercial and defense divisions, has struggled to meet the highly specialized requirements of the new presidential jets. The modifications required are staggering, including the installation of a massive self-defense suite, a mission communication system that can withstand electromagnetic pulses, and an internal executive suite that functions as a mobile Oval Office. Since the contract was finalized, the project has been plagued by labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and technical disputes between the manufacturer and the Department of Defense. Original estimates suggested the new planes would be operational by 2024, but that timeline has slipped repeatedly. Current projections from the Government Accountability Office and international defense analysts now suggest that the first VC-25B may not be ready for service until 2027, with a second potentially pushed back to 2029. Each delay adds hundreds of millions of dollars to the total cost, which has already ballooned past the original fixed-price agreement. These delays have created a dangerous readiness gap, where the old planes are failing before the new ones are ready to take their place. Boeing has recorded billions in losses on the program, citing the complexity of retrofitting existing airframes with such sensitive technology. The Davos electrical failure has intensified the pressure on Boeing to accelerate delivery, but the rigorous testing required for a presidential aircraft means that there are no shortcuts. Every safety system must be validated, and every security protocol must be vetted by the Air Force. Consequently, the United States finds itself in a period of transition that is lasting years longer than anticipated, leaving the presidency dependent on 1980s technology while the 21st century replacements sit in hangars undergoing endless modifications and troubleshooting. This delay is not just a financial burden. It is a strategic vulnerability that affects the president's ability to project power globally. In an unexpected turn of events that highlights the desperation of the fleet situation, the United States has turned to an unconventional source to bridge the gap until the Boeing VC-25B is ready. Several years ago, the Qatari royal family donated a Boeing 747-8 to the U.S. government, an aircraft that had been used as a VIP transport for the Emir. This plane, often referred to in diplomatic circles as the Qatari Jet, has become a critical piece of the puzzle in maintaining presidential mobility. While it lacks the full suite of defensive and military-grade communication systems found on the traditional Air Force One, it is significantly newer and more reliable than the aging VC-25As. Following the Davos incident, reports have surfaced that the U.S. government is fast-tracking a series of essential upgrades to this aircraft to make it suitable for temporary presidential use. These upgrades include secure satellite links, encrypted voice data lines, and basic defensive measures. Sources indicate that this retrofitted 747-8 is expected to be operational by February 2026, providing a much-needed reprieve for the primary fleet. This interim Air Force One will allow the older planes to undergo deeper, more invasive maintenance cycles without leaving the president without a long-range, heavy-lift transport option. The use of a donated foreign aircraft for the American presidency is historically rare and underscores the severity of the current fleet crisis. It represents a pragmatic, if somewhat embarrassing, admission that the standard procurement process has failed to keep pace with the needs of the White House. While the Qatari donated jet will not have the iconic United States of America livery or the full capabilities of the future VC-25B, it offers a level of mechanical certainty that the current 40-year-old planes can no longer provide. This temporary solution is a stopgap measure intended to ensure that the president can travel to international summits without the constant threat of a mechanical abort. As the February 2026 deadline approaches, the Air Force is working around the clock to ensure the plane meets the minimum security standards required to carry the president into potentially contested or sensitive international airspace. The ability of the President of the United States to travel anywhere in the world at a moment's notice is a fundamental component of American soft and hard power. When Air Force One suffers a mechanical failure, it is not just a technical issue. It is a global news event that is monitored by allies and adversaries alike. The January 2026 incident in Davos was documented by international media outlets, from London to Beijing, many of which noted the irony of the world's leading superpower struggling with an aging transport fleet. Diplomacy often relies on the optics of strength and reliability, and a president being forced to turn back due to a minor electrical issue sends a message of domestic infrastructure decay. The transition to the smaller C-32 aircraft, while functional, lacks the presence and the extensive command and control facilities of the 747, potentially limiting the president's ability to manage a crisis while in transit. Looking forward, the resolution of this crisis requires a two-pronged approach. the successful integration of the interim Qatari aircraft, and the final delivery of the Boeing VC-25B. The political stakes are high, as the administration must justify the massive expenditures required to maintain the old fleet while simultaneously funding the new one. Furthermore, the incident has sparked a debate in Congress regarding the future of government procurement and whether the fixed-price model used for the new Air Force One has contributed to the delays by straining the relationship between the Pentagon and Boeing. As the world becomes increasingly volatile, the necessity for a reliable, state-of-the-art presidential aircraft has never been more apparent. The Davos failure may serve as the final catalyst needed to reform the way the United States maintains its most visible symbols of office. For now, the focus remains on February 2026 and the hope that the new temporary measures will prevent another embarrassing return to base. The prestige of the office demands a vessel that reflects the technological edge of the nation it represents. And until the new fleet is fully operational, the shadow of the Davos incident will continue to hang over every presidential departure, serves as a reminder that even the most powerful office is bound by the laws of physics and the limits of aging machinery.